Kevin Hart might be the shortest man to ever feature on a comedy show, but that never stopped him from owning the craziest car collection you've ever seen. He doesn't just ride the sickest cars, he also buys six-figure watches for every movie role he gets. And that's just the beginning of Kevin Hart's stupidly expensive lifestyle. We don't need to tell you how crazy it sounds when Kevin literally smashes milestone after milestone every year. But it wasn't always this way. Kevin Hart came from a poor family, with a dad who was hardly around because he was in jail for doing drugs. That's why Kevin hated drugs from a young age. And even as an adult, he treats his body like a temple, with a crazy expensive home gym in all the homes he has lived in. Kevin Hart might not be as jacked as The Rock, but that doesn't mean he doesn't push his body to the max when working out at his gym filled with $200,000 worth of equipment. To make sure he's not slacking off at the gym, Kevin Hart hired the meanest celebrity trainer ever, and that man doesn't care that he's rich as hell.
Let's go, 20. Easy money, easy money. This is what we do. This is what we do. Come on. Come on, easy. Easy. Adama, you want to spot him real quick while I knock out these curls?
Brother, I got food.
You owe, come on.
I know what I owe. You gotta tell me what I owe.
Let's go.
I'm the one with the sneaker.
How many you owe us?
I'm the one with the sneaker.
How many you owe us?
We all can't afford a celebrity trainer, but you can subscribe to the channel and you don't have to worry about any pain. Being the shortest gym rat around, everyone was blown away when Kevin Hart became the first comedian on the planet to get a shoe deal from Nike. The deal cost a whopping $50 million, making Kevin Hart the only comedian on a list with the likes of Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kanye West. The collab with Nike was cool and all, but way before the footwear brand thought of partnering with Kevin, he had amassed a sneaker collection with over 500 pairs of the sickest shoes you could ever want. The reason Kevin Hart loves sneakers so much was because, once upon a time, Kevin sold shoes to survive. We don't need to tell you how wild it sounds to go from a common shoe salesman to owning an $80,000 shoe collection. That makes Kevin Hart a certified hype beast, but it's still nothing compared to his love for watches. Kevin Hart has always had a thing for watches, and he never tries to hide it. Once he got his first ever big paycheck, he got himself a $150,000 watch. But that didn't last because he had to return it to pay his bill. That was just the beginning of Kevin Hart's relationship with luxury watches, because a few years down the line, he has got himself a watch collection for every time zone on the planet. His Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph cost him $135,000. But that's not the crazy part about this watch. It's the fact that the rubber strap alone can sell for as high as $1,000. And you just know that this isn't the only AP in his collection. He also owns a $66,000 chronograph 50th anniversary green dial, a $39,000 Royal Oak white ceramic, a $360,000 perpetual calendar blue ceramic, and others, making his Audemars Piguet collection alone worth over $700,000. For any other celebrity, that's an impressive collection, but with Kevin Hart, that's just the appetizer. His love for watches also extends to Rolexes, which is why he bought a discontinued Rolex Yellow Gold Day-Date with factory-set diamonds and rubies for $100,000. The Day-Date is a beauty to look at, but Kevin Hart went crazy on 5 Rolex Daytonas, with each watch costing nothing less than $80,000. He also has a collection of Philippe Patek watches, which include the $147,000 Patek Philippe Nautilus, a $47,000 Patek annual calendar, with the crown jewel of the set being the Patek Grand Complications Celestial, which goes for a hot $500,000. Just to show that he is really a millionaire with money to spend, Kevin Hart dropped $1.5 million on 5 Richard Milles, and it's said that he has a watch collection worth over $10 million.
Learn how to properly approach acting as a craft. Time spent to be a businessman or better businessman, to get people to believe in you and your concepts, to invest in you and the things you do. That's time. So when I look at my watch or watches, they all are a representation of time that I spent doing something that mattered the most. And the only way that I can buy the expensive timepiece is to get the expensive return of my time and value. So without the return of value, my time is stupid. I didn't do anything that was worth it in my eyes. But every time I look at a watch, I go, holy this is when I did X, Y, and Z.
Seriously, just listening to Kevin Hart talking about time and watches might just convince you to sell your house for a Rolex. The only way Kevin Hart can even afford that kind of watch collection is because he is one of the most profitable comedians out there, with shows that bring in over $40 million each year. To make sure he was making the best of his skills, Kevin Hart created the company Heartbeat to handle everything from comedy shows to movies, which end on streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime. You can't forget his big budget movies where he gets paid millions of dollars to be the go-to comedy relief. Kevin's biggest moneymakers are his comedy shows and tours, which get snapped up by streaming services. All he has to do is be his obnoxious self while he rakes in over $10 million for each successful show. And as weird as it sounds, Kevin Hart has also been a successful model for brands, with the wildest being him modeling some underwear for Macy's. We don't know who would love to see Kevin Hart in his underwear, but since it's all about the money, we have to understand. Kevin Hart might love his watches, but he doesn't let that stop him from riding in some of the sickest classic cars that deserve to be on the set of The Fast and the Furious. While trying to get a feel of what it was like to be Paul Walker, Kevin Hart almost lost his life in his $120,000 1970 Plymouth Barracuda after it rolled off the California highway. It was a nasty crash that saw Kevin spending a few days in the hospital, but thankfully, it didn't take away his love for classic cars, and his garage is proof of that. His 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner is a head-turner that was heavily modified to show Kevin's love for Michael Myers. Apparently, Kevin Hart thought it was a nice idea to include horror themes like blood splatter patterns in his $120,000 car, and we can't really blame him because his other cars are just as weird. Take his 1970 Dodge Charger Hellraiser, for instance. The car might look like a regular $80,000 Charger, but under the hood, it's been modified to the point that it costs nothing less than $150,000. Hart's other modified beasts include his $87,000 1959 Corvette convertible and his 1965 Mustang convertible, which costs $60,000. Even though Kevin Hart never featured in a Fast and Furious movie, he owns a car that featured in one of the greatest heist movies ever produced. That car is the 1967 Ford Mustang GT 500E, and it was built for the Nicolas Cage movie Gone in 60 Seconds. Kevin Hart had the car made from the bottom up with performance parts, making it a $150,000 beast, which can put out 650 horsepower. Despite his love for modding cars to the high heavens, Kevin Hart's weirdest looking car has to be his off-road 1977 Ford Bronco, and it's not for the reasons you might think. What makes the car look so weird is how high it is from the ground. We know off-roaders get pretty high, but this was in another category, which is why it got snatched up for $140,000 at a Las Vegas auction. We can't lie, Kevin Hart has some unique tastes when it comes to cars, but you can be rest assured that he isn't a secret maniac, because he also owns the regular cars most multimillionaires love, like his stunning Ferrari 488 GTB. Apart from being one of the sexiest cars you've ever seen, this Italian classic is as fast as it gets, with a V8 engine and 661 horsepower, which makes its $250,000 price tag so worth it. He keeps the 488 in a garage with several other cars from the Italian car maker, like a $230,000 Ferrari 458 Spider, a a $330,000 Ferrari 488 Pista, and a crazy $590,000 Ferrari SF90. Anyone would have guessed that a gearhead like Kevin Hart would own a Mercedes, but his $306,000 Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG is a top-of-the-line exotic vehicle for those smooth rides to the beach. Once Kevin Hart had the whips and the watches, the only thing he needed was a home to tie it all together. And instead of going the route most millionaires go, he did something no one expected. After years of renting, Kevin Hart decided he wasn't going to be like his peers who bought up properties on the open market. For his dream home, he was going to build everything from scratch. And once he found the right plot of land in the Calabasas region of California, Kevin bought it on the spot for $1 million. That's how much some people's whole home cost. And Kevin wasn't even started on building his future paradise. Because by the time he was done, he transformed the large parcel of dirt into a stunning home with everything you could ever want. All it took was 2 years and $3 million extra for Kevin to build his luxurious 26,000 square foot mansion into a paradise for his family. Growing up poor in a small home that could barely fit 3 people made Kevin Hart understand the importance of having enough space. And with 26,000 square feet, it was more than enough. Just having the space wasn't enough. The home had to feature all the amenities you could ever dream of growing up. So things like a pool, a wine cellar, and a full-size basketball court were all essential to the build. Kevin Hart also didn't forget to include a cinema for the movies and an outdoor kitchen for hosting barbecues with the neighbors. Speaking of neighbors, he did the most shocking thing in 2021 when he sent his neighbors packing. He didn't harm them, but he paid a mind-numbing $7 million to add 16-plus acres more to his already massive property. Kevin wasn't one of those guys who hated his neighbors so much that he bought his house. He just saw an opportunity to own a new home after it was put on the market. This time, Kevin Hart didn't need to build the home since it was a 9,300 square foot mansion with 6 bedrooms and bathrooms. This also meant that he had access to a new infinity pool, a full-size tennis court, and lots of green space to get in touch with nature. With the new home, Kevin Hart didn't have 1, but 2 massive mansions side by side, and more space than he will ever need. Only someone with lots of money to burn would even consider buying a new home right after building one, and Kevin is just the kind of maniac who would do such a thing.